What is life? Why am I here? How is it all connected? And how am I going to navigate this beautiful but crazy journey? I'm Sylvia and welcome to the Soul Sunshine Podcast. Today I'm talking to Laura Pike. Laura is a certified strengths coach and spiral practitioner who uses holistic coaching strategies derived from positive psychology, as well as transformative emotional clearing tools to support her clients to step into the spotlight of their lives and flourish. Combined with her deep empathetic nature, Laura provides a nurturing space to help her clients to release emotional conditioning and accelerate their emotional and spiritual evolution to transcend their limiting beliefs and achieve what they desire in the areas of life most important to them. As a graduate of NIDA, Laura has over 15 years experience as an actress and is passionate about helping her clients to thrive in their creative careers. Laura is a mom of a beautiful 2-year-old girl, a loving partner, and feels called to help people who desire to embody deeper levels of authenticity, self-love, self-worth, and self-awareness while achieving their creative dreams. Laura is the most beautiful soul, and I'm so excited to have you here today, Laura. Welcome to the Soul Sunshine Podcast. It's amazing to have you on.
Thank you so much for having me and for that beautiful introduction. I actually felt quite emotional hearing that, to be honest, to hear what I do and to hear little Rumi in there and to be introduced in that way was so divine. Thank you for having me.
No worries. I'm so excited to have you here. And I mean, when I'm saying I have you here, I unfortunately don't have you here in my space today because even though we're both based in the eastern suburbs in Sydney, we are still in lockdown.
I know.
It's been going on forever. It's September now, so I think it's week 12 of lockdown or something like that. So we are checking in over Zoom today, which is beautiful as well.
And thank goodness for Zoom. I mean, in this world, what would we do without Zoom and FaceTime and being able to connect in this way? It's a blessing amidst all of this craziness.
Definitely. And it also makes you then appreciate when you actually see people in person, it makes you appreciate them so much more again, doesn't it?
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah. To think of, being in a room with all your family and your friends seems wild at the moment. It seems quite foreign, but yeah, it definitely makes you appreciate the small things again.
Yeah, and we'll get there again. So hopefully soon
Absolutely.
we'll be able to hug each other again. So I'd just like to do a quick welcome to country. I'd like to begin this by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. So today we are going to be talking about Laura's holistic approach of coaching. We are talking about the different elements and methods that Laura uses in her coaching practice to support her clients in the best possible way. Laura specializes in working with creatives on their journey, and we are diving into the world of creative coaching. We are exploring elements of positive psychology, emotional clearing, and her work with the spiral. How can we free ourselves from old patterns and stories and shine in a world that needs more people living their truth? So, Laura, I thought about it the other day and I was like, I think you are actually my very first podcast guest that I haven't really known before for very long. Everybody that I've interviewed this year so far has been somebody that's come into my life over the last couple of years. But you are my very first person that I've reached out to because I was just so fascinated with the work that you're doing. And I remember the first time I stumbled across your name was at Orchard Street in Bronte because Lizzie, my beautiful doula, you know her as well.
Amazing, Lizzie.
Who have done the very first podcast episode with. She works at Orchard Street in Bronte, so do you. And I remember picking up your card and it said something along the lines of positive psychology and holistic coaching. And that really spoke to me. So I picked up your card and I looked you up on Instagram, and there was just something about your site, really. There was something about the content that you were putting out there, the messages that were accompanying that, and just the energy that was really surrounding that really drew me to your work. And then I remember at some point you started posting about the spiral. And I was like, the spiral, what is this? That sounds really, really interesting. And I was like, I know all the elements that make up the spiral, but I've never heard of the spiral as a coaching tool. So that's when I then reached out to you and I was like, I am really fascinated by the work that you do and I would really love to talk to you. And so that's how we connected. So thanks again so much for just messaging back a stranger and having a conversation.
That's what I do. Connect with strangers all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, the beauty in all of that is I feel like I've known you for a long time and we've physically met once.
It does feel like that,
it
doesn't
does.
it? Yeah.
And I think that's the beauty of like-minded souls, when you're on a path of growth and transformation and you're curious about that path and it actually could entail for the individual. I think that the law of attraction, right? You start to attract like-minded souls into your world. So it does feel like I've known you for a long time. And it's beautiful that the connection was with Orchard Street and with beautiful Lizzie as well. And, you know, that world I feel sometimes feels quite small, but it's actually quite large. And there is so much magnetism in the incredible people within this world that we're in. I feel very lucky to be a part of it.
Yeah, and you're so right. It's the same for me. It feels like we've known each other for ages now. And I just dropped the microphone off at your house the other day. And I could have just stood outside of your house for hours and just kept chatting to you. I'm like, I don't want to go yet. I just want to keep chatting. So I think that's a really beautiful sign as well. Like you said, that we're just kind of vibrating on the same levels and just having something to talk about. So yeah, I'm sure we'll have lots to talk about today. Let's jump into it, Laura. So your background is in acting. You went to NIDA, you trained as an actress, and you worked in the industry for over 15 years. When did your curiosity for self-development and coaching start? And I guess when did you realize that you wanted to make that leap from being an actress yourself to helping those being on a creative journey?
I think when I look back at my whole life, I've always been really curious about people. And at the core, this work is about the individual. It's about the person, supporting the person to expand and become the best version of themselves that they possibly could be. And being an actor, when you're fortunate enough to get work, and that, especially in Australia, can be the challenge of this industry, you have the ability to really dive into the character that you're playing. And to really do a great job with that, you have to get curious about who that character is. Who is that person? How are they different to you? What are their challenges? What are their weaknesses? What are their strengths? And I guess that is something that is quite a gift for an actor, because that means that you're working. But not only that, you actually have the ability to explore characters even if you're not working. You know, it doesn't mean you have to have the job to be able to access these particular characters. But I think acting was the place that really allowed me to go deeper into that, into the curiosity of the individual, even if it was a character. They had to become real for you to be able to perform them. And NIDA really gave me that gift, because that's the work that you do when you're at drama school. And then I think coming out of it and facing the reality of the industry, especially I have to say in Australia, it is a challenging industry. You have to have an incredible amount of resilience to be in this industry and to keep putting one foot in front of the other, backing yourself, believing in yourself, and continuing to chase that dream, to chase that goal, to act. And I think it was through the downs of it, through the challenges of it, through the rejection of it, that it allowed me to go deeper within it for myself. And I'm a firm believer as a coach that if I can do the work on myself And if I can continue to be curious about myself and what I need to be working on, then there's going to be gold within that to potentially, hopefully, support someone else that may be experiencing what I have experienced or what I'm experiencing. So I think it's a culmination of the backgrounds as an actor, but also as a human being, that led me on this journey and on this path. And through that, I've learned more about myself than I ever have in my entire life.
So you were talking about some of the challenges that you were facing while going through that period of your life while being an actress, and how the industry can be quite cutthroat and you have to be very resilient. So when you started working on yourself around that time, what was the point in time when you were like, wait, if I need this work and if this is really helpful for myself and if this is something that I really require in order to, live my best possible life, there must be others out there that feel the same, that, have the same struggles or that have potentially other struggles. What was that point in time for you where you felt like I should really try and, not just look for help myself or look for support myself, but try and support other people through those challenges as well?
It was actually my dad that kind of shone that light, I guess you could say, because I always naturally have been there for my friends and for my family. I've often been the person that people would come to and go, Laura, I'm struggling with this. Do you have any advice? Laura, I'm going through this challenge. Can I just call you and talk to you? And my dad actually was like, Baba, darling, why don't you actually start a business so that you can also support yourself in the process, so that you can be there but have the tools that you've actually got to help other people. So it was my dad that really, allowed me to see the skills and I guess the natural ability to listen deeply to people and to be supportive to people with no judgment of what the experience was that they were going through, could become something that I could actually do for a business. And it really wasn't until I had Rumi and I became a mum that legacy started to really become a core value of mine. What do I want to leave behind? What do I want to be producing in this world that Rumi is going to be really proud of? What do I want Rumi to be saying? Mummy does this. Mummy supports people and helps people to be their best selves, right? And so she then became a huge driving force for me to actually then step into my own spotlight and literally do this for real. Not just taking the phone calls from beautiful friends that needed me, but to actually do this as a business.
I love the fatherly intuition there as well, having your dad there pointing out, darling, you're really, really good at that. Do you even realize that? And now you being a mom as well, you just can see yourself in that position as well, because you look at your children and you see their natural skills and you see what they're good at without them maybe even realizing it. So I really loved that your dad gave you that initial nudge as well.
Yeah. And also dad, I guess dad is also, he's a money man. He's an ex-businessman. He's a bank manager, ex-bank manager. And so I know he was also, a lot of parents of actors worry about this hobby that we have.
The hobby.
and I guess it was also dad's way of being, okay, what can we be doing here for you? So you're not sitting in the feast or famine of this industry, but actually how can you support yourself in that? So his background in that essence really helped me to look at it from a business perspective, the money perspective. And as you know, as a mother as well, right? We've got to put food on the table. We're supporting another being. And so then the ability to actually have something that is mine, where I have the autonomy and, I can control that for myself, became even more important.
I think that's actually really beautiful, and that's really important as well, what your dad did for you, because where that brings me as well, talking about, becoming a mom and changing what you're doing and rethinking what you're doing or what you want to leave behind in this world for your children and for others, I think it happens to a lot of mothers that once they've had a child, that they go like, actually what I've been doing might not 100% be the right thing for me anymore. And a lot of moms pivot, but there is a lot of the time that question around, is this something that's actually financially sustainable, or is it just like what you said before, a hobby? I think a lot of what moms do out there is just considered, oh, that's just her hobby on the side, without people realizing how much work and blood, sweat and tears it actually sometimes takes to put something together, even if it might not have any financial rewards yet. And I think that's a really nice thing that your dad was able to support you in that, and then be like, we make this sustainable for you as well, because you're such a gift to the world and to those ones you're helping,
Absolutely. And I think the hobbies that people can often see as just a hobby actually are what energizes us. I'm also a certified strengths coach, and the tool that I use in that type of coaching is called the Strengths Profile. And what it does is it works out what your energizing strengths are. Where are your weaknesses? Where are your learned behaviors? What are you good at, but what's draining for you? But the gold is, what are your unrealized strengths? The ones that are really energizing for you, that may be unconscious, that you might not be aware of at the moment. And that can often sit in our hobbies. So for me, I naturally loved supporting people I loved. I naturally loved to see people take some piece of advice and take it into their lives and flourish, literally flourish with that, and go, my God, I'm feeling so much better in myself, or I had this shift, I had that change. And so that is one of my energizing strengths. So it's also about, well, what actually lights you up? What's inside of you that you naturally do that lights you up and gives you energy? Let's see how we can actually focus and pivot and do that thing. So many of us are in this world doing jobs that sit in our learned behaviors, doing jobs that we're really good at, but we're drained and we're miserable, and we're coming home to our family and like, oh God, now I have to do this. I'm exhausted. And at the end of the day, none of us want to have that feeling. We want to be in this life that we have right now, doing something that we love. Well, that is my own opinion, but right.
Yeah, totally. And I think where the problem is, though, is that a lot of people don't even know what they want to do, or where their strengths are, or where their hidden strengths are. And it is like you said, it's like, oh, that's just a hobby, I just do that on the side, but this is my job. And when you're talking about, learned behavior, it's really interesting, because just yesterday I picked up the boys from daycare, and and when I came home, I told George that they were asking us to help them with Rafa, my little one, not throwing everything, right? Because he just loves to throw stuff. I mean, he's actually really freaking good at it. When he has a tennis ball and he throws it at you, you better get out of the way. It's crazy. Anyway, but George's response was, Jesus, they really want everybody to just be the same and do the same, right? And he was like, why don't they just go, okay, he likes throwing things, let's make a game so he can throw stuff in a productive or constructive way, right? But it's from a very young age, we're being put into this system where everybody goes in and everybody's kind of supposed to come out the same way. And that's where I love the whole Steiner philosophy.
Yeah.
Because it's about looking at the child and looking at people and looking at what their strengths are and how they are individually. And I saw this really interesting animation where you put kids into the school, right? And they all go in and they all come out and they're just all kind of squares, because everybody comes out the same way. And I think we do unlearn that quite early on in our lives, depending on your parents, and obviously lots of different other circumstances that are playing out. But a lot of us unlearn very early on what it is that we actually really like to do and what it is that we're actually supposed to be doing with our life, because we all come here for a reason. We all come here to live our own soul purpose, right? And not just be the same as everybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there is a few pieces within that. I mean, there's that brilliant TED talk about schools kill creativity. And it's exactly that point. And it's about the famous ballet dancer where the teachers were turning around and saying, you know, your child is so distracted and they're moving all the time and they're just really jittery and, you know, we need to really get them in line. And luckily, this particular child was at a school with a principal who could actually see the child's inherent gifts. And so he put on music and said to the parents, let's come and let this child just hear the music and see what happens. And when they looked through the window of the door, the child was dancing ballet to the music. He said, there's nothing wrong with your child. Your child's a dancer. Enroll your child in a dance class. And went on to become one of the world's most famous ballerinas. So I think this is the beauty, taking this into the work of the spiral. The spiral gets to those core limiting beliefs and emotions and conditioning that has happened to us, and it quite often is from childhood. Where were the 3 installments? We find it's called a root clear, and we go to the core of where this installment first started to install in our body. So for example, where was the first time that you experienced and felt shame? And what was happening for you at that time? What were you going through? What were you feeling? Okay. And often when I say to clients, where are you feeling? Where do you feel shame within your body? They can go, oh, in my stomach. And then when we go to the core of where this emotion is actually sitting, either a lot of the emotions may be sitting in the stomach meridian, or something may have happened where they shrunk themselves and they really felt that shame, and you can physically see how it shrinks them. And so the body does keep score. We actually do start to store these things, and it does happen from childhood. And I guess it's about when we become adults realizing and recognizing that there are different tools and coaches and modalities out there to help us unlock those limiting beliefs that for a lot of us are unconscious. We're completely unaware of where they started.
And I think the important thing as well is to say that everybody has those things, you know, everybody has certain things that they're bringing along from their childhood that they need to work through, you know. It's not something like where people go, oh, it's just me and I'm struggling and I'm doing this. It's like every single person struggles in a different way, or I always call it like they have their own little backpack to carry, you know, with their little things in them that they have to work through. But going into your work now a bit further, so you've already touched a little bit on the spiral. So just tell us overall a little bit about your approach of coaching. I know you've got a very holistic approach of coaching and you're using quite a few different modalities. Tell us a little bit more about that before we can then go a bit deeper into them as well.
It comes down to the individual, to be honest. So I love to check in with a client, you know, at the start to see, okay, so where are you right now? Where are you? What's going on for you? What's not working? And ultimately, what would you love? Where do you see yourself? Where would you love to see yourself? And so we look at, like in NLP, it's like, where's your present state and where's your desired state? And what's the interferences in the middle that are getting in the way? And so for some people, a strengths profile, for example, may literally be the tool. The one session may be the tool that unlocks, oh my God, that is where my energy lies. They're my energizing strengths. Incredible. And through that coaching session, they take that away and can put it into particular areas of their lives that they're wanting to flourish, they're wanting to expand. And so a holistic coaching journey could be a combination of really getting in tune of the individual's values. What are their core values? You know, what are their strengths? Using positive psychology tools to bring them back to the best version of themselves. And it's within us. We all have the answers within us. So it's my job as a coach just to help them clear the dust that's in the way for them to come back into that and fully realize and own and step into that.
When you're talking about positive psychology tools, what are some of the tools that you're using there?
A lot of it sits in values, a lot of it sits in energy, what is actually energizing. I mean, at the core, positive psychology is actually using what is great within us and amplifying that. Traditional psychology in the past has actually looked at, well, what's wrong, and now how can we fix that? And often I find you can hit your head against a brick wall because it's not bringing you energy, it's not making you feel great. And that often can happen in school, right? You get your report card and you have 3 A's, a B and a C, and the C was in math, so it's like, right, let's get you a maths tutor. Yes. Whereas it's like, hang on, I had an A in art and an A in science. Let's get me a tutor in art. Let me do some art classes. What can I delve into for science? And so positive psychology actually came in and used these frameworks around what is working, what is already good within you, and let's use this to move you forward. So a lot of mindset tools are in positive psychology, a lot about flow, allowing you to really tap into what is working.
I really love that because, you made the perfect example in terms of schools, because it's exactly that example, right? We're always focusing, or a lot of the time we're focusing on the things we're not doing well rather than on the things that we're really doing well. And it's just such a weird concept. But anyway, what I do like though about your approach in coaching, looking at positive psychology, but then also looking at the spiral, I feel like you're doing both. And I think to be really successful, you do need to do both. You do need to look at, okay, where are you excelling as a person? Where are your strengths? What are your values? What do you actually want to do? How do you want to create change in the world? And how do you want to be of service in this world? But then also looking at your past and at your childhood and that whatever has happened to you in your life so far, and looking at what are the things that have happened to you that are holding you back, and let's clear them and let's work through them so you can shine even brighter.
Absolutely. And I have found in my own personal coaching journey that the spiral is a tool that I've now got in my tool belt, which I feel so lucky to have in my tool belt. It's actually amplified the work I do in positive psychology even more. And that's where the individual comes into it, because I can use the structure of the spiral as that one particular tool, but mindfulness and mindset in positive psychology tools may be the tools for that particular person that is going to literally transform their lives. Someone else, it might not. They might actually really need to get aware of where their strengths are. What are their values? And so then the spiral will help clear those patterns. It can help clear the emotional blocks that are in the way for them to step into it. So it's just with the individual, I just use whatever naturally I feel. I think that's where I have to tap into a lot of my intuition in coaching, of finding out what is going to work for you. And at the moment, I'm in my second round of a spiral journey with 8 incredible women. And even though they're all going through the spiral, which is the same process, every single journey is completely different. So if those 8 women were to call each other up and go, wow, how was your integration of level 2? I did this. The other person would go, what? I did this. That's completely different, which is the exciting aspect of using all of the other tools that I do have as a coach. Yeah.
I do want to talk about the transformations and what you've experienced within the spiral, but just to start at the beginning there again, because like I mentioned at the beginning as well, I was really drawn to the spiral. So I've done a lot of self-development work and education over literally the last 20 years of my life. Never heard of the spiral. So when that popped up on your Instagram, I was like, what is this? Sign me up. This sounds awesome. I love that. I love the sound of this. And I've heard all the elements that make up the spiral, but I haven't heard of the spiral as a program before. So Laura, just talk us through a little bit about what is the spiral, which methods does it use, and how does it work as a coaching tool?
So Dane Thomas is the creator of the spiral. So he wrote the book that you're reading right now, Clear Your Shit. And in 2012, this is when he developed the spiral. So he had used a lot of different techniques in spiral dynamics, the scale of consciousness, NLP, the chakra system. And he was like, something needs to be done to combine all of these into one powerful transformational tool to help people literally transform and grow in their lives. And this is how he created the spiral. So in his book, he actually says quite often other types of coaching is like you're peeling the layers of the onion. He said the spiral explodes the onion.
Yeah, I love the book. I'm like, yes, I'm in for that. Like, that's really
I want to clear my shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Who doesn't want to clear their shit?
To clear. And yeah, I was reading that, and he said other practitioners, especially kinesiologists, do not like it. But I'm like, why peel back the layers if you can just explode the whole fucking thing?
That's it. And I think, again, that comes back to the individual, right? So for you and for myself, yes, we're like, let's explode it and let's clear our shit. And for other people, a gentler approach may be better. So that is actually something that we often discuss in a discovery call that I have with a potential client. You know, when we talk about your desired state, where are you wanting to go? How quickly are you wanting that? And if they're like, oh man, I'm ready for that now, I'm like, let's look at the spiral because that is going to give you a fast transformation. So how it actually looks is using the kinesiology tool of muscle testing. On each call, as a practitioner, I ask for the permission of that person to tap into their energetic field. And so what that does in tapping into their field, that gives me the ability as a practitioner to access what are the particular emotions that are blocking them from getting the thing that they want. And it also combines Chinese meridian theory of where it's actually sitting in the body. A perfect example, I guess, to explain how it can actually look when you unlock it. I had a client this week and there was a particular emotion that we were clearing, and the emotions that were coming up were in the kidneys. And this client just had this light bulb moment and said, I get kidney infections all the time. And so now clearing that particular emotion, that allowed us to delve into, and this is where the NLP comes into it, of reframing their pathways, of actually being able to allow them to tap in for themselves and find the answer that all of us have within ourselves. Okay, so when you were having that kidney infection, what was going on in your life? Oh my God, I was experiencing this. And it's like, there you go. You were experiencing a negative reaction to that emotion. So now...
And it's manifesting in your body.
Absolutely.
Because of that.
And you're getting kidney infections again and again and again. So now part of the integration, and I give each client specific integration based on their clears, which is why it looks like such a different journey for the individual to individual. But for this particular client, it's like, okay, let's tap in, and for your integration, let's start to see down the track, are you still getting kidney infections? And there's a large potential that she may not. She may or she may not. So that's part of seeing what the changes are happening, because during the session, you see changes happening. They feel changes happening within their body. It happens immediately for a lot of people. And then some people, it happens later. Integration. So I went through the spiral before I did my practitioner training. So at the start of the year, and I'm still noticing integrations where I go, oh my God, there's level 1 still integrating. Whoo! Okay. Yeah.
So how can you best describe that? So when we're talking about the levels as well, we're talking about the chakras, is that right? So we've got the 7 chakras in our body, and like in each level, we are clearing out one of the chakras, and we are clearing out the emotions that are associated with that chakra. So like you said, with the root chakra, I think it's shame, guilt, and dogma, for example. And so then as you like, yeah, maybe you can talk us through that. I'm trying to talk us through it, and I don't know what I'm talking about.
I think it's great what you're saying.
But So I'm just wondering, how can we imagine that? How can we imagine the feeling of something being cleared away in terms of those emotions out of your chakras, and then that integrating in your life over a certain period of time? And before we go into how it can integrate, maybe you can just really quickly talk us through the chakras and just which emotions are sitting in each of the chakras as well, just so that we have a bit of a better understanding of, what the
Sure.
there is.
Sure. So where the chakras come into it is the spiral as a map goes through each chakra. So we start at the base, we start at the root chakra, and that's your first week. And then we look at, when we move into the second week, you come up to the sacral chakra. So you move up the chakras so that you end with clearing the crown chakra. And so we actually are opening ourselves up to the best possible version of ourselves. So when we start with level 1, we're releasing shame and we're coming into higher self-worth. So the emotions that we clear are shame, guilt, and dogma. So what is in the way of you through these emotions to enable you to come into higher self-worth? When we look at level 2, we go into the sacral chakra. So we're releasing fear and increasing proactivity. So we release fear, grief, and paralyzed will. And then we move into level 3, which is the solar plexus, so our power center. And so we're releasing anger and stepping into self-confidence. So we release and look at pride, anger, and desire. Then we move into level 4, which is the heart. And that's about releasing the wounds of the heart and increasing love. What are you open to receiving in this area? And the emotions in the heart chakra are reason, acceptance, and love. So you see how even as I'm talking, things start to become a little bit lighter. We start at the base, which is the heavy, icky stuff. So in the scale of consciousness, we're at the bottom. And as we move up, you can feel things starting to get lighter. When we come into the throat chakra, we're releasing low self-esteem and increasing expression. So where have we stopped and blocked our expression? What are the things we're really wanting to say? So we look at anxiety, confidence, and low self-esteem. You can see how clearing that allows us to express even more confidently. Then we look at the third eye. So we're releasing the old views of what things could have looked like, and we're coming into clarity. This is how I want my life to look. This is how I've always had a vision of what my life is going to look like. And we clear truth, trust, and receptivity in order for us to come into clarity. And this is where people just start to get light bulbs. Oh my God, this is what it looks like. I knew it. Now I've come into full clarity. And then we end with the crown chakra. And the crown chakra is aligning to your higher purpose, to the divine, to your divinity. So opening up to something greater than ourselves. And in the crown, we look at 4 emotions here. So peace, joy, enlightenment, and purpose. And so you can see and hear through coming through the chakras and clearing those 22 emotions and the limiting beliefs and the old stories and the patterns and the conditioning that has been stored in our bodies. Look at what is available to us with all of that clear. And so to answer your question, to go back to your question about what can you actually see shifting and changing? Oh my God. Where do I begin? There was a point, Sylvia, where with the first round, I took 6 phenomenal women through my first round of spiral. There was a point where I was saying to Jordan, my partner, oh my God, I'm almost feeling overwhelmed at these messages I was receiving, because I was getting messages going, oh my God, I just got promoted. I don't even know how that happened. I just got promoted. I didn't even interview. I just got promoted. Other clients were like, oh, I've got a meeting with this agent. Like, I've been trying to have a meeting with this agent and I've just been rejected the whole time. Now I've got this. I love myself. I can honestly, truthfully say I love myself. And I don't even feel there's any ego in that. I can look at myself in the mirror and I really am loving the reflection of what I see back. Like, the transformations have been absolutely huge in their sense of self-worth, in their self-love. Like, yes, in the business aspect of things. So for creatives, like, oh, I got the part, I got the agent, I got the promotion, I got the ad, I got the, like, these were literally messages that I was just receiving so much when we were in like the final week and the week after of the spiral, that there was a part of me that was not surprised. Like, of course, I mean, look at all of the, shit that you've just cleared. But also overwhelmed with, oh my God, this actually works.
Because it's a big responsibility as well, right? It's like, I mean, it all sounds amazing, but it's a big responsibility and it's big energetic work for you as well, supporting all those other souls through such a huge transformation.
Yeah, definitely. And it doesn't mean that everyone has huge transformations like this. For me, the changes for me were more subtle. But if I actually took a step back, in the big scheme of things, these could take me a lifetime to achieve. So for me, having boundaries and being able to say no, being able to really tap into what are my needs, were some huge changes and transformations for myself. Breaking old patterns from childhood and everything, of being able to go, this is what I want, and I'm okay with that. So they can seem more subtle, but in the big scheme of things, they're still huge. So it's not saying that everyone that goes through the spiral all of a sudden becomes a millionaire and famous and blah, blah, blah. It looks different for everyone. But with what you were saying there about energetically supporting these beautiful clients, I've developed very strong boundaries for myself, energetic boundaries of what I take in. And so after I'm with a client, I will often do a chakra line clear, which clears my chakras to their chakras so that I'm not taking something on. And for example, if someone has shared something very deep and personal and I can feel my heart is with that person, doing a chakra line clear and clearing what's in my heart to that person's heart means that when Rumi comes home from daycare, I'm not carrying that into my home and my life and myself and her, which is very important.
Yeah, because you do need to be careful about your own energy field as well, and especially being a very empathetic person as you are, we do take things on a lot easier than other people, so like things stuck with us, and then it's important to be aware of what's actually mine and what is somebody else's that I just need to give back again.
Absolutely. And I think that's where the experience as an actor has actually helped me even more so, because if you're playing a character who may have traits that you want to judge as your person, they're a murderer, a rapist or something really horrific, you want to play that character with no judgment because that's who that character is. So when you de-roll, it's exactly the same as doing a chakra line clear to that character. And so it's the same thing, keeping your energy separate to someone else's energy. That is theirs, this is mine. I am me, and coming back to yourself. I've had to develop very strong boundaries for myself around that. And the tools that I have within this, the clearing tools, help me to do that very quickly. Yeah, I feel lucky.
And you would also, when you're working with your clients, have the experience that your clients are carrying things from other people around them, or I know I've done some work where there has been things cleared that I've been carrying from ancestors or past lives even, where you go like, what's holding me back now? Where is this even coming from? You're not aware of that. That's why you need a professional to work you through that, and you would find that with your clients as well, going like, these are actually not your energies. Once we can clear those away from you, you will feel like a whole new person.
Absolutely. The ancestral lineage, for sure. Often for a lot of people, parents, school, teachers, big influences in our lives can have profound effect on us of where we start to store those limiting beliefs. And it's about being able to clear that, have the awareness around, whoa, that wasn't mine to carry. That was coming from there, releasing it. So we're no longer carrying that. And yeah, it opens up a whole world of possibilities of who we actually are. That has been there the whole time.
Yeah, exactly. And before we go into that, because I do want to talk about that as well, but what you just said before as well is, not all the transformations look huge, but they are all huge. And I really do like that, because what I said before as well, we're all here for a specific reason. We are all here for different reasons. So what is huge for me might not be huge for you, and vice versa. So you're always clearing out what is most important for you and what is helping you live your life most true to yourself. And that's where it comes back to what you just said as well, and where I always think back of that conversation that I had with Dan Kulapski from Yes And, which was episode 8. And it was all about misidentification and the big question of who am I, and how can we detach from that wanting to become somebody and realizing that we are already everything that we need to be. Talking about the levels of consciousness and all that as well. I feel like that fits in there really nicely, because it's like, who would you be, if you could just get out of your own way trying to become something, something other or not. It's like, who are you actually already? And how can that come through? And how can that shine through?
Absolutely. And I think going back to when we talked about our strengths, the energizing strengths, it's exactly that. When you're having a conversation with someone and you know how they're talking about the thing, like, I'm really wanting to do this, and it's a push because there's something way over there in the distance they're needing to get to. And then when you can simply say, what are the things you love? What did you love when you were a child? Oh my God, I love this. You start to see their expression change. Lightness, themselves light up. And it's like, it's there. It's been there the whole time. Sometimes we just need to get out of our own way and almost take a deep breath in and exhale back into that of who we deeply, truly are. Coming back to that. It's not something that we need to push and strive and keep going for. Like, yes, have a desire to want greater things in your life. Like, dream big. I absolutely believe in dreaming big. But the true essence of who am I, we have those answers within ourselves. So something that was a challenge for me when I first started coaching, I often at the start felt like I needed to come to every conversation and coaching session with all the answers and all the questions and all the things to have right, so that I could give them 5 million things to walk away with, and they would go, wow, I'm doing all this thing, Laura's amazing. And I was like, oh, hello, ego.
Value. It's all about value. How much value can I give them, right?
That's
I need
it.
to give them more. Yeah.
Whereas actually, just as a coach, being able to just clear the dust in the way and allow them to be the driver, the architect of their own life, they have all the answers. It's almost like I don't even really need to do that much. I just need to show up and be present for them to allow themselves to get to that. It's really empowering.
Yeah, and I think what's really undervalued in this whole thing as well is, just listening to people, just listening to what they want to say. And it's like you said, when you open that space and when you create that space, people have their answers within themselves. They already know without knowing that they know. And sometimes it just needs them to talk to you about it. And while they're talking, they're like, oh yeah, actually, that's it,
Absolutely.
And it's just a bit of helping them to clear things out and helping them to see things in the right light, because it might be literally in front of their eyes and they might not be seeing it. But it is like you said, everybody's having everything that they need already inside themselves, but they do need people like yourself to really hold the space and to really support them and show them the way,
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's where we are so lucky in this day and age that we're living in, that there's so much on offer for us to find that. to have those realizations, to realize that we have the answers. You know, there are psychologists, kinesiologists, yoga instructors, coaches, spiral practitioners, you know, like there are so many different people out there with different skill sets. It's about finding the right person that's the right fit for you to help you on that journey of expansion and transformation and realization. And so
again, it needs to feel light, right? It needs to feel light and right when you're working with somebody. You don't want to go there and be like, oh, I don't really want to talk to that person. I don't really want to share my stuff with them, or I feel a bit uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You're supposed to feel really safe.
Yes.
And held in that space, you know?
Yeah, like
being able to open up.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I see a brilliant psychologist very often, and I've been seeing her for a long time now, many years, and to get to her I had to go through a lot of psychologists that just weren't right, that I was sitting there going, oh my God, this is going nowhere, what a waste of time. And then I found this psychologist and I was like, you know, hallelujah, and here she is.
It's a godsend, isn't it? I know, it feels so good though when you find somebody that you really can work with, where you feel like you're vibrating on the same levels and you're actually really making progress.
Absolutely.
As well, I think it's really important to find that perfect match, so to speak, when we're talking about, you know, therapists or coaches or any practitioner that you're working with, really.
Yeah, and you know, this is purely my opinion, but I truly think that there is such benefit and so many gifts in having someone else there to support you, because I definitely think you can do a lot of the work yourself, and especially if you're someone that has a lot of tools, absolutely. However, having someone else there to allow you to just release and let go and be held, and to have those curious questions asked of you to enable you to find the answers within yourself, there's great benefit within that.
Definitely, I think it's totally underrated, especially when you're a coach as well, you know, because like I said, you're taking on a lot from other people as well, and yes, you're clearing it out, but then it's also about you want to keep developing yourself as well, and you're on this path of growth and enlightenment, and you want to get there as well. So because it's the fact that you can only bring the people around you as far as you are already, right? So you obviously want to keep working on yourself and keep working, or keep going on that journey, I should say, so that you can bring others along that journey. Somebody said that the other day, actually, every coach needs a coach, you know, and it's like, yes, you need it more than, I mean, everybody needs it. Everybody could benefit from it. But yeah, coaches definitely need coaches, because sometimes people are like, oh, you've got all the tools yourself. You can do everything yourself. How awesome is that?
Oh.
Like, it doesn't really work that way.
And that can often be the trap. I had this only last week where I was being so hard on myself about not being able to get to this particular point, because I was like, you should be able to do it. Just clear it, Laura. Just use all of your tools and get yourself out of this. Like, what are you doing? And then I had a session with my psychologist, and she was like, wow, look at the pattern that you're going into. So by you not actually allowing yourself to be supported in that way, you went into a cycle and a spiral of shame and feeling like you needed to have all of the answers. We don't. We all need support. Some of the most enlightened beings out there still need someone to support them, I'm sure. You know, it's...
Well, because we're all human after all, right? We're all human.
Absolutely.
We are souls having a human experience, but we are human after all.
Exactly. Something that I love to say to my clients is, you know, fail gloriously. Allow yourself to have a deep understanding and awareness that we're all flawed. We're all messed up in our own beautiful, unique ways. No one is better than anyone else. And so when we can actually realize that, we can come to a place of having more compassion for ourselves and therefore others.
Yeah, and failure always comes with growth as well. Like, it hurts and it sucks and it's not always fun.
Yeah.
But, you know, a lot of the time it's those moments in our lives that then really make changes in our lives as well. And that really change us as human beings when something happens, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah, the growth within that is phenomenal. same as grief and, experiencing painful moments in our lives. When we do the work and we can give ourselves time and space and compassion, what is on the other side can often be something really profound that we never knew was possible.
Exactly. And so, Laura, you were talking about, you started off your coaching journey with coaching mainly creatives as well, starting with actors, and you're kind of still specializing on creatives. And you have just mentioned before as well that you're working with a lot of beautiful women, so mainly women at the moment. Talk me through that a little bit, and why do you think it's so important for creatives and then also, women, that are creatives to be supported on their journeys? Why are you so passionate about that?
I always just come from my own experience. And I think that sometimes in the creative world, and creativity, by the way, is not what we often think creativity is. Like, to be a creative doesn't mean you're a painter, an artist, a dancer, an actor. A creative is like, what are you wanting to birth in this world? When you can create something within yourself, you're a creative. And I think...
Which makes every single person a creative.
Exactly.
Right? Well, it's funny because, when you're talking about that, it's one of the stories that I've kept telling myself. And so my mom is an arts and crafts teacher, right? And so me growing up, I always thought I wasn't creative because my mom used to paint, my mom used to do pottery, she used to knit, she used to do everything under the sun when it comes to what is a typical creative task. And she was amazing at everything. And I frankly sucked at pretty much everything. I'm just not an arts and crafts person. I'm just not. But so the story that I kept telling myself from when I was very little was that I'm not creative.
There you
and
go.
Now I'm here, like I'm a filmmaker. I've been working as a producer for over a decade now. I'm doing the podcast. I love writing. Like, I do so many things that are creative, but again, it was that story that I kept telling myself all the way up until I was an adult. Like, no, Sylvia is not creative. I'm not creative. My mom's creative, but I'm not creative.
Exactly.
So it's really interesting when you talk about that.
Exactly, because that's where we start to, we've boxed ourselves, right? So for you growing up, creativity was paint and an easel. That's a creative. Whereas exactly what you just said, look at this incredible diverse range of creative pursuits that you have birthed into this world. There is so much within that. And I think the stories, I love to get really curious and find out, where are those stories for people? What are those limiting beliefs? Where are the blocks that have stopped you from actually seeing your creative genius within inside of you? And also looking at the imposter syndrome, the anxiety that we often get within this, how hard we can be on ourselves. And often following more creative pursuits requires us to put ourselves out there more. And so sometimes when we put ourselves out there more, a lot of the judgment and the critical voices and all of those really challenging aspects can cloud and hold us back and stop us. And so I think I just have a real passion for allowing people to, as I say, but to step into their spotlight so that they can put one foot in front of the other and shine, flourish, live a life that is meaningful, that has purpose, that energizes them, that lights them up, that makes them feel good.
And it is also like creativity feeds creativity, right? So as soon as you start doing something, it usually is a bit like a domino effect where something else starts to happen and something else starts to come up, because you just start creating, like you said, and it doesn't matter what it is. It's just the start of creating something that usually leads to something else.
Absolutely. I mean, someone even said to me the other day, what did she say? I've knitted a beanie for Rumi, and she said, I'm so impressed with your knitting skills. And I was like, what? Like, oh my God, I'm just learning. I'm just trying. I'm not a knitter. I can't even make anything. And then the other night, it's Rumi's birthday on Friday, And I've made her hand stitched this little sleeping doll, a Steiner Waldorf sleeping doll.
Cute.
And as I was making it, I was like, oh my God, I have just hand stitched this.
That's amazing.
Whereas only 2 weeks ago, I was like, I'm not a knitter. I don't do this. That's for other people. So that's the other thing, right? Of actually allowing yourself to celebrate those small moments. Before I had Rumi, if someone was like, can you knit or sew? Never. Oh my God, that's not something I do. Like, other people do that. They're amazing at that. No, I'm not creative like that at all. And here I am finishing a project, 2 little projects that I never in my life thought I could have done. But clearing what's in the way has allowed me to step into that, and I actually find it so therapeutic, so energizing, so relaxing. And then it's giving something to my girl that hopefully she's going to love and cherish because mummy made it for her.
Definitely. It's a whole different value that's on something like that as well when you've made it with your own hands.
Yeah. Whereas in the past, I would have looked at other mums that are like your mum, a great painter, and, or you with filmmaking, if you made an amazing film about your children. And in the past, I would have shrunk going, oh my God, I can't do any of that stuff. Like, what kind of a mum am I? Whereas it allows us to come into our uniqueness, and it looks different to everyone else. We all have our own individual fingerprints. So why should we try and be the same as anyone else? It's just limiting us from our potential.
Yeah, exactly. And I think because we're talking about moms now as well, I think we do sometimes fall into that a little bit as well, Like, we all want to make everything perfect and do everything perfect for our children, but at the same time we don't always believe that we can do what we want to do. And it's just like this cycle of, I'm doing the best that I can, but this person is doing this and that person is doing that, and we're just all doing the best we can, I think.
Exactly.
And everybody is different, and you just can't judge yourself for that either,
Absolutely. And I think going back to what you said at the very start of the podcast, so lovingly said that you liked my Instagram. When I share on Instagram, I'm just sharing my own story, hoping that maybe there's one person out there that may read that and get something out of it. That's a big goal of mine, a big intention of mine when I share. And I never want to be someone that tries to presume that I know more than I don't. I've fallen into that trap a lot. I'm trying to work through that because often I allowed my ego to take over and dictate where I was going. And it was through fear and shame and all of that kind of stuff. And now clearing the way, I think why I've been so attracted to women especially, and creatives and actors and mums, is because I'm like, well, what do I know? I don't know them all well at all, but what do I know? I kind of understand what it's like to be a woman. I understand what it's like to be a creative. I've had 2 years experience of being a mum, or 2 years plus pregnancy, and I understand what it's like to be an actor. And before I did my business, so much stopped me, all my limiting beliefs stopped me, because I wasn't a famous actor, no one knows who I am, I've never won any awards. And then also the coaching side, I'm not a clinical psychologist. Like, oh my gosh, I had so much in the way. And even being a mum, I'm not the most amazing mum, and I'm not one of the mums that can do X, Y, and Z. And when I actually cleared all of this, I was like, of course I'm not any of those things.
Well, but you are the most amazing mom for your own child.
Exactly.
And you always will be.
Exactly. And it's only through clearing all the shit that was in the way that has allowed me to come into a better relationship with all of that. And so now when I coach actors, I don't care if they're famous and they've won all of these awards. Brilliant. I'm going to see the inner child within them. I'm going to see the individual within them, and I'm going to love that, and I'm going to be present for that. And I'm going to try and use some of the tools that I've got to support them to feel a little bit better. And if I can help them have those small incremental changes in their lives, well, that's my legacy. I'll feel really proud of that.
And how do you think the world right now is a little bit in turmoil, right? It's been for a while, even before COVID, and now obviously with COVID and the global pandemic. How do you think things would change, or things could potentially change, if more people would just really try and find their way back to their true essence and to their true self, and clear out the things that don't serve them well, and just try to be themselves, really?
I think that what we're going through at the moment is a huge awakening, really. I think there is so much fear and worry and anxiety, and so much, like undoubtedly, so much going on in the world. But I think that if we can have the ability to come back to ourselves and to look after ourselves in a holistic way, in whatever way that looks for you, but using tools to help you come back to yourself, then we can come back into presence. And when we can come back into presence, then we have the ability to look at what's going on from that place. More clear of the fear, the worry, the anxiety, because often so much of that's out of our control. Whereas what's inside of us is in our control. And there are incredible people out there in the world, and phenomenal tools out there in the world that can help us come back into presence. I practice Vedic meditation with a phenomenal teacher, Jess Osei, and this is a lot of what she talks about. When we can come back to our mantra, back to ourselves, back to our internal work, and we can come to the stillness. The water above the surface can be rough and rocky and splashing around, and there can be chaos everywhere, which is our current world that we're in right now. But we actually can have the ability to come into the stillness and not be as affected by that. And I know for myself personally, and for myself as a mum, I really deeply want Rumi to be in an environment that is more present and more still and more loving than fearful chaos. But that's my choice, and that's what I want, and that's what I'm trying to cultivate. And it's a challenge. It's absolutely a challenge, but it's a choice, in my opinion, and I choose that.
Yeah, you would choose the world that you want to leave behind for your children as well.
Yeah, for sure.
That's beautiful. Laura, thank you so much for our conversation today.
Oh, it's such a
amazing.
pleasure. We could talk for hours.
A beautiful human. I know we could. I know. I was actually just thinking, do I have any more questions? But I do think that this is a really nice way to end the conversation today.
I trust that what we've covered is exactly what was meant to be covered.
Exactly. Oh, I love you, honestly.
Oh,
you're
you
such
too.
an amazing woman. I just love the work that you do, and it's just been an absolute pleasure chatting to you a bit more in depth about where you're standing and what you're doing and how you're helping other people. It's just been beautiful.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, and for the incredible work that you're doing with bringing these amazing people into our ears. And to hear of so many different stories, especially in a time like this, to be uplifted and to hear a different perspective is also what I want to choose over the fear and the news and the chaos. So thank you.
Definitely. Thank you. Thank you so much for your kind words as well. Thank you. So, Laura, the three main pieces of wisdom that came out for me today from our conversation, there was obviously so much knowledge and so much depth in there, but the three things that really stood out for me was, number one is your holistic approach when it comes to coaching. I personally really love that. I love that you're looking at each individual person as an individual, and you're using all the methods and the tools that you've learned over the years to really support that person in the most effective way. I think that is also a message for everybody listening, find somebody that's really looking at you as a person and that doesn't just have a one-size-fits-all kind of approach. The second point was obviously talking about the spiral. So the spiral is this magical tool that we've now discovered. And it's all about really clearing emotional baggage that you have held onto for your whole life out of your energy centers in your body, and therefore releasing all those emotions that don't serve you so you can go out into the world and really shine as the person that you truly are. And the third point was talking about creativity. Creativity does feed creativity. And I do really love what you said, that every single person is creative, because as soon as you're creating something and as soon as you're putting something, anything out into the world, you are a creator, which means you are creative. And I think that is such a beautiful way to look at the word creativity, to make it a really inclusive word where everybody can find a piece of themselves. So those are the three things that have really stood out for me today. Thank you, Laura.
Such a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. We've also mentioned a few resources today. We've talked about Dane Thomas's book, Clear Your Shit. We've talked about other bits and pieces. So I will put all those resources into the podcast notes. If you do want to get in touch with Laura, go to her website, flourishlane.com.au, or you can also find her on Instagram under @Flourish Lane Coaching. Drop her a line, say hi. She's amazing. She does such amazing work. The world honestly is a better place because you're in it. I love what you're bringing to the community around here. It actually honestly brings tears to my eyes. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening today. I really hope you got something out of this episode. We really went deep into how holistic coaching works, what it can look like, what is the baggage that you've been carrying with you, where you feel like it's time to let that go and it's time to really step into my light and to shine in this world. Like I said, drop Laura a line. Yeah, she's amazing. I really do hope that the information and that the knowledge that has been shared with you will guide you along your journey. It will pick you up where you are at right now, and it will help you go the next few steps towards where you need to go, where your path is leading you. Please do share the podcast with your family, with your friends, with anybody that you think might benefit from this information. The more people that can listen to it, the more people that can start thinking about their ideas of, working on themselves and releasing old patterns and old stories that don't work for themselves anymore, the better. Like we said at the end, the world needs more of this right now, and the more people we can have working through some of their old stuff, the better. I really hope this episode brought some sunshine to your soul. I'm sending love and light your way, and until next time.